What's going on with Matthew Wood? What does this team need to do in order to get into a wild card position, and what to expect against the New York Islanders?
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first stop of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. I want to start off by shouting out all the Locked On Predators podcast community and our everydayers who tune in to chat all things Preds. My name is Jack Williams, and I am the Nashville Predators beat reporter for the Hockey News. And today we're going to get into some interesting topics. We're really getting spread thin a little bit here with the Preds being on the road, a little bit of a gap in between games before they come home. So we're really divulging into stuff, but examining some topics that are of hot points and a lot of people of what people are talking about. And one of them being Matthew Wood and just where has he been and just why is he being scratched in and night out over these past two games. Now, he was scratched in the previous game, which was a 6-2 loss to the Edmonton Oilers, which occurred on Tuesday. And then he missed out on the Calgary game. He was scratched that game as well, which was a 4-3 victory over the Flames. That was in substitution for Justin Barron, who has spent some time off due to injury and is just now returning back into the lineup. In his time over the past season, he has played 21 games. He has 4 assists, and his last game that he had played prior to the Calgary game where he got in action in substitution over Wood was the November 16th game in the Global Series, which is a 4-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Predators have been riding one forward short in this stretch lately. They've been going 11-7 in their last two games, 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. And the big question with all of this is, why is he being scratched? And just, it doesn't really make too much sense in the moment of why are you sitting somebody, especially a young player, and going through Trotz's whole vision of getting younger players involved and bringing younger players in up through Milwaukee and trading a young defenseman in order to bring young forwards up. This kind of contradicts all of that a little bit more in what he said, essentially. But Brunette had an answer for why Wood was scratched, and I'm going to read the quote here. He said, "Woody, he's a young player. We want him to grow, and it's good to take a step back and watch and see. And I think we need to get JB where we're a potential injury away from needing him to have to play big minutes. So I think it's important to get him in and get him going because he's an important part of our team." The defense has been an issue all year this year, constantly. And I don't really think, and this is just my opinion from watching this team all year, I don't think Justin Barron's going to fix all of that. And I really don't think he's going to be somebody who's going to be putting in heavy minutes at all. I mean, he's on the last pairing, correct? It's been Yossi Haig, Shea Perbix. You throw Blankenberg, I think, into that 2 pairing here and there when one of them is not playing well. Then you have Wilsby and then Barron. That doesn't make any sense. This just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't think this makes a lot of sense to fans as to why they are riled up as well, because you're getting rid of a young player that's had a good year throughout the lineup and just sitting him. There's nothing wrong with him. You're having him sit up in the stands. And I don't really think wanting him to grow and watch the game is really a great explanation as to why he's being sat for a defenseman that hasn't done much this year. Now, to Barron's credit, he has been injured for the majority of the year, but I mean, before that, he had 4 assists in 21 games. He really wasn't leaving an impact. And as I mentioned before, the defense has been doo-doo. It has not been good. And it's been a lot of Blankenberg and Yossi pulling everyone along. This Edmonton game really exposed just how bad the defense looked. I mean, you let Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid specifically, run all over you. And I mean, if you can say, oh, well, it wasn't specifically the defense, there was a goal that Draisaitl scored that specifically showed Blankenberg getting shoved off the puck, allowing the forward along the wall to make a pass straight to center. And suddenly Leon Draisaitl is one-on-one with UC Saros, and Nick Hague is jogging back to catch up to him. And Leon Draisaitl has not open yet net, but a perfect one-on-one chance to go and score on UC Saros. So I don't think Justin Barron fixes that, and I don't know why, especially in a time where the offense is working so well. You're taking Matthew Wood out of the lineup. He has 8 goals, 16 assists, and 14 points. That's a healthy total you got going there. That's more than what Jonathan Marchessault has this year. He is being extremely actively productive, and you're taking him out and just healthy scratching him. In going off the scratching punt, it's a head-scratching decision. This doesn't make any sense at all. And I don't think it makes sense to you guys. It doesn't make sense to me. I think I've seen some other journalists being like, this is a weird thing to do. It doesn't make sense to me. And I've said that 8 times already, but just sitting him and have him watch from the stands this is somebody who is on a good kick, especially for a rookie. He has a hat trick this year. And sit somebody else then. I don't know. I don't like the whole teaching lesson of this, because it's not what you should be doing, especially when you're playing well, trying to get into a wild card spot, and you're in the process of turning things around. You're sitting somebody who's been a big part of that. Sit Tyson Jost again. There's other options. Reed Schaefer's been good, but Wood's been a lot better. Sit Reed Schaefer. Almost really fell on top of my words there. Caught myself. But, you want to talk about a young player that should watch the game, put Reed Schaefer up there. I don't think Matthew Wood should be up there. I think you guys believe the same thing. He shouldn't be up there as well. It just doesn't make sense. And then I just continuously go back to what Barry Trotz said, and a lot of other fans around the league clocked this too, saying this doesn't make sense we want to ship off a young defenseman who's playing well to get other young players into the lineup. And understandably so, I think it was a good trade just because for the fact that he is a good player playing well in the moment. He's just playing good, straightforward hockey, but the explanation wasn't good. And then doing this, sending away a young player, and then just the whole thing and I think this might just be because they're on the road. We might see more of it now because they're coming back home, but we haven't seen any guys from Milwaukee come back up. Like LaRue has been down there. Ryan Ufko, who I could be his biggest fan at this point and be his biggest supporter at this point of how this man deserves a chance. Oh my God. And I have to slow down here because I get excited and I talk too fast. But Ryan Ufko, if we're talking about players needing to put in good minutes, being supplemental and getting part of this defensive rotation and trying new things, especially when the defense is not playing well, you have somebody down in Milwaukee who is leading defenseman in points in the AHL, and he has not been called up for a cup of tea. Make sense of that. And you want to put Justin Barron into the lineup and you want to live and die on this? And again, Ryan, just have somebody, you have a defenseman that's playing well. Bring him up. Give him his chance. Instead of working this, I don't buy the whole Justin Barron's going to put in heavy minutes for us and we're preparing for that. I just don't buy it right now. Especially the way the defense has looked. I don't think Justin Barron's going to be the one to fix it. And back around to the original point, pulling Matthew Wood out, it's just you're taking out a weapon. You're taking out a weapon from your arsenal. And it's just going to look good for your opponent coming, especially a team like the New York Islanders, who we'll talk about towards the end of this episode, who are looking very good right now. And you want to take one of your offensive weapons, one of your younger bottom 6 weapons who is supplementing that end of the lineup. You want to take that out of that rotation? I don't know. And you know what? Maybe this will sound crazy when this comes out because maybe he will be back in the lineup against the Islanders. But as of now, as of January 7th in the afternoon when I'm recording this, and they don't practice today, so we don't have a chance to look at them right now. as of now, he's been scratched for 2 straight games. So maybe it was, okay, we just want him to watch 2 games on the road, and then we'll get him back into the lineup. Instead of, well, let's get Justin Barron acquainted and have him play all these games and sit Wood. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. But that's my 2 cents. I talked for 10 minutes, so maybe it's my $2 on it. But we'll go into a break for a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about our ad for today. But when we come back, we'll talk about the wild card. The Predators have been chasing the wild card a lot, but the whole thing has been about, can they get into that actual wild card position? We'll talk about how the Predators can finally get into wild card position and what the teams are doing in front of them to be into that position after the break. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. The automatic transaction categorization is a game changer. I can finally see where my money is going each month. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. One more time, rocketmoney.com/locked on. So the wild card here, and we've been talking about how the Preds have been chasing it constantly, and this is not going to take anything away from the Predators at all. As I've said it multiple times over and over again, that this team was soundly in the basement of the league, and now they have completely turned things around after a miraculous December and are suddenly chasing a playoff position. But the thing they've done lately is, and we're changing up our standards a little bit, is they've been in wild card position. They have not been in wild card position. They've been chasing it, and they've been right there. They have come up to the cusp of it, and then they've fallen out of it a little bit more. In this run they have been in, they have not actually been in the wild card position. As they've been at that threshold, but just haven't been able to be crossed. Now, it's important to talk about how it is January. There is a ton of hockey left to be played. We're like right just over the midway point of the season. We're right around it. If you want to talk about a bigger picture of what the midway point of the season looks like, we are right there at this large gap that is the midway point of the 2025-2026 year. But the Predators have a lot of hockey left to do, and it could change really quickly. If they go on a run here, they could get into a top 3 seed. Who knows? But as of now, what we're talking about is their ability to finally get over that threshold and grab onto the wild card spot. So let's talk about the wild card race and break it down a little bit more. Wild card 1, and this is as of Wednesday, January 7th, so the games have not been played tonight. These will likely change since there is a ton of teams I am looking at right now and going to list off. But wild card 1 is the Los Angeles Kings. They have 45 points. Wild card 2 is the San Jose Sharks, 45 points. And you're going to notice a trend here. Third place in the Pacific, which is worth mentioning. This was a team that was outside of the wild card spot and has worked their way up into the third position in the Pacific Division. That's Seattle. They have 47 points. And then right outside of the wild card spot, that threshold that I talked about, also with 45 points, is the Anaheim Ducks. The Utah Mammoth have 43 points. Right behind the Utah Mammoth are the Nashville Predators at 42 points. The St. Louis Blues have 42 points. And then we kind of get to an area that it could be give or take if they are in position or not. They still have a little bit more work to do. That is the Chicago Blackhawks. They have 41 points. And then the Calgary Flames have 40 points. Talking about what the Predators have looked like against all these teams I just mentioned, they are 8-3-1 against them, which is a solid record. And as I mentioned before, it kind of showed that the Predators didn't really belong in that basement position of the league because they were beating down on these teams and they were playing just well against them, showing that they weren't the type of competition that was leveled out there. But at the same time, we saw them play the Hurricanes and the Oilers, who lead their divisions, and that was another story. But they've beaten the Avalanche before. They beat the Golden Knights before. Like, it's a mix of stuff here and there, but overall it showed that the Predators are beating down on the teams that are towards the bottom of the league. Now, talking about this road trip here, this run here, could the Predators have gotten over the threshold here? And they could have, because games against Seattle and St. Louis, you could argue, were games that if they had won those, that would have given them the boost. That would have put them at if they won both of them. So that would have been 4 more points. They would have had 46 points, and they would have had the first wild card spot if things stayed the way they did. If they had won one of those games, so 42, 44 points, they would be like one spot ahead, essentially. But it's coming down to the whole thing of this whole road trip too, where they went 4-3 in 7 games. If they had won 2 of those games, they would be into a wild card spot. That is how close this threshold is right now. And if we really want to get down to the nitty gritty of it, because it's really simple about what they could have done, just don't get behind it so early, because that's what's happened in all of these games. And the difference maker in those 3 losses were the fact that the Predators could not make it up. They went down really bad to the Oilers. They put themselves in a really bad hole. They gave themselves a little bit of a push in the second period, and then it was just too much. It was too much. The St. Louis game, that was probably their best chance in a loss they've had lately to make it up. It was just, again, they went down and they were chasing a little bit more. It was just the Blues were just getting that little bit of push to go ahead in throughout the game, and that just proved to be enough, and that 1 goal was enough of a gap to do that. And then Seattle, it's the same thing too. You're putting yourself in a hole and you're chasing it. Like, that's the baseline difference in all these games. If you weren't down early, these could have been different games. If you had scored the first goal of the game, or if you had held out a 0-0 tie for how long, or you held out a 1-1 tie for how long, maybe these could have been different results. And 2 results here, as I mentioned, that could be putting them into a wild card spot right now. And you can throw in different aspects of it all and saying, oh, well, maybe it's home record versus away record. And it's not, because the Predators are 19-19 on the year. And looking at their home and away record, they're almost identical. So it's not home or away. That's not the thing here. But looking at what the teams in front of them did to get over that threshold, Seattle was reeling right before they played the Predators. They had lost a ton of games. They weren't having a good end to the 2025 calendar year. And then they beat the Predators, and then they win 4 straight games. And that is what got them into a 3rd place spot in the Pacific Division right now. They were outside of a wild card spot when they played the Predators, I believe. And now they are in that 3rd spot in the Pacific. However, the Pacific, unlike the Central, because the Central is just down to 3 teams right now, and I don't really think anybody's going to push past them. It's Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, and then it's teams fighting for another spot in the Central in the wild card. But I don't think anybody else is going to break into that threshold unless I'm going to talk about it towards the end of the segment, but someone needs to go on a run in order to make a difference here when we're talking about the Central Division standings. But the Pacific is extremely tight. I believe it's like 2 points are dividing like a wild card spot there and the first place spot. It's so tight in the Pacific Division right now. And the 2 other teams I'm going to mention are Pacific Division teams. LA, who's in that first wild card spot, they have back-to-back wins after a really bad December where they went 4-7-2. They had a good start to the year. I think I don't know if they were great to start the year, but they had a good middle portion start to the year. They had a really bad December, and now they kind of saved themselves from falling. They've hung around that wild card spot for a bit now lately. They've been kind of just floating around there, staying within their own. And then San Jose, as we know, they had a fantastic November, and then they've won 4 of their last 5. They were out of it for a hot second. They had a really bad loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they got back into it. And for a while, it was the Predators chasing the Sharks to get into that wild card 2 spot, and it was them. And this is the aggravating part too. I believe it was that game against Seattle to where the Sharks had lost, and this was at a run where Nashville was winning, San Jose was winning, and the Predators essentially needed the Sharks to slip in order to move in. And what had happened was that game was played earlier in the day, and the Sharks had lost, and the window had finally opened up for the Sharks not the Sharks, for the I clicked the wrong team. I'm just making sure I'm getting this right for y'all. That window had opened up essentially for the Predators to make that jump, and the Predators did not. They had lost 7-3 to the Lightning, and that put them back, and the Predators had the chance to move up because no, wait, hold on. Yeah, if they beat the Flames or no, it was the Kraken. So yeah, if they had won against the Kraken, that would have given them the boost that they needed, and that didn't move. That did not happen. That the gap wasn't there. Essentially, I'm saying too many things right now. What I'm trying to put into place, and that was a little confusing, I apologize, is that the Predators had their chance to jump the Sharks. Jump the Shark, isn't that funny? And did not. But like I said, it's January, so there's much more time for them to do that. And then talking about finally getting into that wild card spot, they need to go on a run. They have not done that this year. You can talk about like, oh, well, they've won blah, blah, blah games and blah, blah, blah. They've won blah, blah, blah games, and it's this number they've played essentially, but that's not a run. They haven't this year strung a run together where they've won like 4 or 5, like a massive number in a row. And maybe they won't do that this year, but that would soundly put them in. Even if they go like on a 3-game run, 3 or 4-game run, maybe they did go on a 3-game run this year. I think they did because they beat the Rangers and they beat the Maple Leafs. But I don't know if that was 3 in a row because there might have been one before that. They did. Hold on. Yes, they beat the Wild, they beat the Rangers, and they beat the Maple Leafs, and that put them in good position. I think they need to go on a bigger run this year. Talk about 5 games, and another 3, I think, would do it too. They need to do some sort of run here where they're stringing games together and they don't have a loss separating it, or at least if they do, they can get a point out of it. And this team hasn't gone to overtime too many times this year, but a run would help them a lot. And that's easier said than done completely, especially with this team. The teams coming into town lately are going to be like superb competition. So it's going to be difficult for them. But if they go on a run here, that will put them in great position. And then coming up to the Olympic break, if they're in good position, going into a 2-week pause, that feels good for them. But at the end of the day, a 500 record is not going to get you in the playoffs. So that's what they're hanging out around right now. That's what they've been hanging out around. They need to get over that hump and find a way to break through a little bit more, because I've mentioned before that my goal for them was to have a playoff push this year, and that's good. But if you spend so much time in this range of pushing for a wild card and just can't get there, that becomes increasingly aggravating. And I bet you their focus right now is to get into a playoff spot, or at least a good position into the standings to where they're soundly in there. And especially in the Central Division in the West this year, you want any sort of gap that you can build between space right now. So especially in the Central Division, if they can build space between everybody else and then the top 3 in the division, that would be sweet for them. They get that wild card 1 spot, wild card 2, no one in the wild card 1, I would say. No one in the Central Division behind them can catch them, but they can't really catch the top 3, so they're in a cozy spot right there. That would be a good ideal spot for them. Obviously, ideally, it would be like first in the Central. I don't think that's going to happen. We will see, but that's what's going to take. What would you do for a wild card spot? Name of the segment. That's, in my opinion, what it will take for this team to move into one of the wild card spots. But before we go into the last segment, I want to talk about our Everyday Club. So thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everyday Club today and get Locked On Predators with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonpredators.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. When we come back, we will talk about the New York Islanders. That game is tonight for y'all. I'm so jealous. Y'all are in the future right now, and you get to watch the Preds back at home tonight. I will be at that game, but I am in the past right now, so I'll be waiting a little bit. But anyway, stop rambling here, but we will talk about the New York Islanders after the break. So the New York Islanders are rolling into town, and this is another elite opponent. It feels so weird, especially, I don't know if you guys can relate to it too, of just remembering how bad this Islanders team was probably 10, 15 years ago, and suddenly they are one of the best teams in the league continuously, and this has been something that's been going on for probably 5 years. And when they were competing in the Eastern Conference Finals a few times, they weren't great last year as they won the #1 overall draft pick. But I mean, they've just kind of picked up and gone. And they've kind of been in that conversation of a playoff team in the past 5, maybe even 10 years now. But I remember when they were so bad. One thing that y'all might not know about me is I lived on Long Island for 4 years when I was really young, like when I was from 6 years old to 9 years old. And we used to go to Islanders games. And those tickets were so cheap. This was like back in like 2004, all the way like to 2007. And those tickets were so cheap because nobody wanted to go watch them. They were awful. But this is a different Islanders team that's playing really well right now. This is the first time this year that the Predators are seeing the Islanders. They are second in the Metropolitan Division with a 24-15-4 record. And last night for me, 2 nights ago for y'all on Tuesday night, they put a romping down on the New Jersey Devils. I don't remember the last time I've seen a score like this, of just it being a shutout and just the other team playing well and having this bad of a loss. They beat the New Jersey Devils 9-0, scoring 9 goals on 24 shots. And again, the Devils didn't play bad in this game. They had no penalties in this game. They had 3 power plays and 44 shots on net, and they lost 9-0. This Devils team is going through it, y'all. But the Islanders, I mean, it was just bait. They just went for it. They just took control of this game and just rolled. It was a massive performance by Ilya Sorokin, made 44 saves for a shutout. Anthony Duclair had a hat trick. Casey Cizikas had 2 goals. It's impressive, and it's intimidating as well. And it's a good place that the Islanders want to be coming into this game, especially against a Predators team that has a lot that they want to play for right now, against a Islanders team that is just looking to move up the standings right now and take the Metropolitan Division. Islanders are one of the best goaltending teams in the league right now. They have a 2.7 goals against average combined, a .911 save percentage, and 6 shutouts. That's combined between their 3-man tandem. The majority of the tandem has been Ilya Sorokin and David Rittich. So Sorokin has played 25 games this year. He has a 13-10-2 record, a 2.45 goals against average, and a .915 save percentage. And then Rittich is 11-5-2, 2.48 goals against average, and .907 save percentage. So whoever the Predators are going to see, they're going to be going up against a sound goaltender. If it's Rittich, there might be a little bit more leeway there, but if it's Sorokin, prepare. This is a good goalie that they're going up against. Ooh, Sorokin and Saros. That'd be a great face down. That would be a good showdown, not face down. I don't know if face down's a word. That'd be a good showdown. Absolutely. Love seeing those two go up against each other. But one of the trends we've seen lately is Justus Ananen has been the one that's been starting against some of the best teams in the league. He started against Colorado in Denver. He started against Vegas in Vegas. I guess maybe it's more putting in Ananen on the road, but we've seen a lot of Ananen against the best teams in the league, which is kind of funny. But he's played well again. He played well against Colorado, lost, but played decent, and then picked up a win against Vegas. So he hasn't been bad. But Sorokin versus Saros would be a lot of fun. Absolutely, would be a goaltending battle. Might be like a 1-0, 2-1 game, or it could go completely the other way. Talking about the Islanders' offense. No, you guys will love to hear this. Matthew Schaefer's having a fantastic year. In just the draft lottery that the Islanders essentially stole. Predators having such a high chance to get the number 1 overall pick. Islanders scooting up, having an extremely low chance getting the number 1 overall pick. Predators sliding to 5th. He has 29 points this year, 12 goals, 17 assists as a rookie. So he's been massive for them this year. Again, a defenseman. But the goaltending has been this team's bread and butter this year. This is a good team in between the pipes. They're a sound scoring team. I think they're sound in most areas on the ice, but goaltending is where they really separate themselves from everybody else. They have the 7th best PK in the NHL at 81.8%. Predators are right there. They are 10th at 81.4%, so we're kind of splitting hairs a little bit, but good PK teams don't take penalties, essentially. It's going to be hard to score on the power play. So, I mean, special teams, well, it'd be interesting to see what the special teams matchup is here for sure. But the game is on Thursday night at Bridgestone Arena at 7 p.m. This will be the first home game for the Predators of 2026. Their last game was all the way back in December before Christmas. And it was when they picked up a win over the Rangers 2-1. So I know a lot of fans will be excited to get back into Bridgestone Arena. And hey, remember, Steven Stamkos' 600 goal celebration will be happening before the game too. Also remember, there will be commemorative posters being given out at this game at the exits. It's only a limited amount too. So if you guys want a poster, maybe think about leaving the game a little bit early. I know it might not be ideal, but if you want that poster, you might have to do it. You might have to risk it for the poster. But that's what's going on with the Islanders. That's what's going on for the Predators. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Where can you find me? At Jack G. Williams on Twitter/X. I write all my stuff for the Hockey News Nashville Predators. So I will be covering all the home games, or as many as I can get to. I will be at the home game on Thursday, so if you'd like to say hello, go for it. Love talking to everyone and everything, as you can tell from just this podcast. But if you guys are just interested in Locked On Predators too, on Twitter, we are LO_Predators. And on Facebook and Instagram, we are just Locked On Predators. So thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. As always, I am grateful to talk to you guys every day, chat with you guys every day, all things Predators and whatnot. And I will see you for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast.